Hello everyone, welcome back to another Flesh and Blood video that I have to re-record because OBS decided to change the default for my headset mic. In this video, we will be looking at Dorinthea Iron Song with an updated list from heavy hitters. With that said, don't want to go too long in the intro because I've already recorded this. Let's just get started. Dorinthea is a 4 intellect, 40 health hero from the first set, similar to Katsu we did last week. Dorinthea's effect is a once per turn. Whenever you hit with your weapon, you may attack an extra time with it. Really nice. Of course, Dorinthea most known for her use of Dawnblade, but since heavy hitters makes one-handed weapons kind of insane, we're playing that. Hatchet of Body and Hatchet of Mind. Both of them are pretty much the same, just you have to play one of each. They say 1 resource to attack for 2 power. If you attacked with the other hatchet as your last attack this turn, it gets +1 until end of turn. With Dorinthea, this is really good because you can come in for 2, 3, and 3, which is really nice. And you get a lot of value out of the hatchet's actual effect, since one-handed weapons are super easy to use now because of all the new heavy hitters cards. Crown of Providence, the premier helmet. Warrior doesn't have a good one. Tunic, the premier chest piece. This is a bit more of a mid-range deck. The game will go later. Grains of Blood Spill could be an option you might want to consider, but I think Tunic is just better. Brave Forge Bracers, because they work well with Dory's ability, and they're pretty nice with hatchets, having you come in with a 2 if they don't respect it, and then being able to come in with the other hatchet for 4 on a breakpoint. And then Valiant Dynamos, because this is like an extra 5 health minimum every game. This card is kind of needed. The remaining equipment are Balance of Justice, so we can have it into decks that it's good against. That's the point of it. No Ring Gloves for pretty much every arcane matchup, just so we can have at least one. And No Ring Boots for the Wizard matchup, because in that matchup, you don't need the shoes we're already playing. Our main board consists of 54 cards. Let's start with the reds and rainbows. Blade Flurry is one of the better cards out of heavy hitters. Pretty much is just a 0 for 4. This lets you push over hatchets to trigger Dory's effect. You can play this on just a clean hatchet off like an agility or something, or another way to give it go again. Have it come in for 4, hit them for 1 if they only put a 3 block in front, and then just get the Dory effect, swing at the other axe, maybe you give that go again, and then you swing at your first axe again. Really nice card. One of the best things. Blade Runner is a go-again source that also gives pump. We don't have to talk about this. We already talked about it a lot in the other video. Same thing as Blade Flurry. Hit and Run Rainbow is a card that's actually pretty nice in this deck. I will explain why we're on Hit and Run Rainbow towards the end a little more, but Hit and Run, pretty basic. Your next attack gets go again, and if you've already attacked, your next attack gets +3. Pretty nice for that second axe, especially if you are planning on hitting it or you already hit your first axe, because it lets you come in with that third swing, getting max value off this card. And this swing's really nice because we're planning on attacking with 2 axes every turn. Spill Blood's insane because this lets us push through so much damage, giving the axes dominate and +2. Spoils is here. The copper isn't really that good, but the +2 go again is really nice for the Spoils of War. CNCs are just the premier attack, just some disruption to help the deck go by. And finally, Take It on the Chin, because this card gives you an agility and it's really strong. Moving on to the yellows. The only yellow we didn't briefly go over is Shift the Tide of Battle. Shift the Tide of Battle gives a pumped attack go again, a pumped warrior attack specifically. And the next time we do damage to the opposing hero this turn, we make an agility. So this can be a go again for 2 turns in a row by itself, which is already really nice. but it also has really good synergy with the deck's game plan because, of course, if we say Blade Runner, our first axe, come in with our second axe, we can shift the second axe, come in with the third axe. Then we get an agility for next turn, so we can swing at the first axe into the second axe already by itself without needing to spend anything other than 2 resource, which is a very nice effect. We really care about agility in this deck. That's why we're on so many sources of it on 9, and this is 3 of them. And I think this card is definitely good, and you want to play it in your list. Next is just the blues that we're mainboarding. Glint is here because it's a go again, and it replaces itself. It's just a really good blue. Goblet is here because it's an agility source. Hold the Line is here because in most matchups it will just be a blue, but in the matchups that the balance is good in, Hold the Line is very good too, other than Kano, I guess, but still, it's a blue. 3 Overpower, just so we can eke through that last little bit of damage. And 3 Warrior's Valor, so we can have some extra go again. Talk a little more about this towards the end of the video. Next, let's move on to the rest of our sideboard. First, let's talk about the 3 ofs. 3 Fate and 3 Sync, just so we can be defensive in a lot of situations. Just premier defensives. 3 Runner are here because this deck uses agility very well. It's another extender similar to the Shift Tide of Battle, but, well, a little worse since Shift can be played without an agility already, but similar idea. Lets us extend agility across multiple turns. The deck that we're going to talk about after this, because I do want to look at Max's list from the Pro Tour, which is what this deck's based on, plays Amnesia. Amnesia was great for that tournament since Ninja in theory would be really good, which it is because it was good into Katsu mainly was good into Dromai and KO. Of course, no Katsu's top aided, but that's probably due to the fact that KO is just really strong anyway, and a lot of Dory made day 2 because Dory was a great deck to play into that format. So personally, I have Runner here because I like the card a little more, but you can play Amnesia instead. Looking at our 2 ofs, Oasis is here for Kano, since Warrior isn't too good in a Wizard. Steelblade Shunt is here for the decks we need to block taller. And Cleave is here when we need to push through extra damage or deal with some allies. It has a multi-purpose use. Finally, our 1-ofs. Down and Dirty is going to come in to our Dromai matchup, so we have an Arsenal Popper, as well as into our Assassin matchup, because it's something we can Arsenal to block with off Codex. And then Ripple Away, which will come in pretty much the same matchups. Stops Codexes from giving tokens, and it stops Dromai from raking us down, which rake is super good. With all that out of the way, that's the deck that I would recommend you play. I think it's a very basic version. A few cards that we're not playing. We're playing no Dory specs, mainly because a lot of them only affect one weapon, and the Tutor, where the Tutor is good, the problem with it right now is that its axes don't force your opponent to block. The only thing forcing your opponent to block is Dorinthea's ability. So having that Tutor when your opponent doesn't have to block you is a little rough because, you know, it's hard to always have it when your opponent does actually want to block, because there will be a lot of turns your opponent doesn't. Steelblade Supremacy only pumps one weapon, so we're not playing it. Glistening Steelblade only pumps Dawn Blades, so we're not playing it. And you don't need Iron Song Response because Iron Song Response, is that the whatever the one from Dusk Till Dawn? You don't need that one because it's pretty niche, to be honest. So next, let's take a look at Max's list. We're just going to do a brief talk about because, of course, Max, second place, Pro Tour LA, amazing placement. This deck is very inspired. My deck is very inspired off of this one, of course, with changes for reasons I normally change stuff. So of course you see 3 Amnesia here. I have the 3 runners in place of it. Personally, I am a ninja player, and I don't want people to play Amnesia against me. That's not the only reason why I'm not on Amnesia. In fact, that's not the reason why I don't recommend Amnesia. It's some disruption. It's really strong. It's the only other 3 block of that disruptive archetype. Every other one only has 2 block. So Amnesia is a very strong card, and Max seemingly brought it into pretty much every matchup I think I saw that he was on camera. So Amnesia is a very strong tool into a lot of matchups. But, again, Amnesia was mainly a meta call. I think it could be replaced by something else if you wanted to, which is why I replaced it with Runner. Of course, you can play Amnesia instead if you wanted to do that. I think that's perfectly fine. Max is on 1 less shunt, and I believe was up 1 more blue than my list. I think I'm on 22 blues if you include the 1 ripple away. But Max is also only on 1 Warrior's Valor and lower number of some blues. The reason I have my deck a bunch of 3F blues is simply because I just think it is more consistent, and newer players who are just picking up the deck, not specifically newer players, people just picking up the deck, can understand the deck a little easier and not have to worry about blues that are usually there to just pitch and stuff, but see play sometimes. I just want to talk about the blues here because they are actually important. The ones that we're not including are Nasty Surprise and Warmonger's Diplomacy. Warmongers is a card that is definitely strong. However, my problem with it is it stops us from playing some of the things in our deck. Of course, it's here for certain matchups, and we'll only play it into certain matchups, but when it can randomly stop us from doing a Spill Blood, a Spoils, a Hit and Run, it does feel a little weak, which is why I'm not including it. Although there's definitely a reason to include it, you can definitely go down to Warrior's Valors for it, because, I mean, Warrior's Valor isn't that good of a blue. It's just like a good blue to pitch and sometimes have to play if you need that go again. And then 2 Nasty Surprise, because every deck at that high level is on CNC, and Nasty Surprise is like an insane card just to have in your arsenal and get popped, because then you get a free axe swing with go again that has +1, and that's a really nice effect. Of course, if you're going to play a deck, if you think you can play which I don't see a reason why you couldn't be able to play a very highly optimized list, you can play this list exactly. I think that's perfectly fine. Just if you wanted a little easier to understand to play list, that's why I have my list here. And I will link my list. And of course, if you want to find Max's list, you can look in tournaments on February, the same site that my deck lists are normally posted on. But with all of that, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Sorry I tried to go through this a little fast because I am a little annoyed that my audio did not record the first time. And I guess that's just, my April Fool's Day prank on myself. But I hope you all enjoyed. Next week, I'm hoping the KO constructed deck is fully out, so we can talk about it. I don't want to just talk about the few cards. So that's just going to be it, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Goodbye.